Ready, my friend? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Let's talk horse racing for a Tuesday. No Monday, holiday. And that's for the labor lovers out there that needed to take the day off. So hopefully everybody recharged their batteries for this busy Tuesday. Back, I think, isn't this like school day too, when everybody goes to school? Turns to school.
Yeah. I think East Coast. New York is probably amongst the latest ones. You guys in North Carolina, I think you went back to school about a month ago.
Oh, is that the case?
But no, New York is back in school. The colleges are in full stride. We had our first big weekend of college football. I think everybody played on Saturday. Then we look forward to the NFL on Thursday. So certainly is a fall feel to this Tuesday morning. That's for sure.
Yep. Sports is jacking up for the fall, but just before we get to the fall, so football is taking center stage, but horse racing will be on center stage in a couple of months for the Breeders' Cup. And we had 2 more races, actually 3 over the weekend, but 2 big ones that we covered on Thursday's show. And that was the Pacific Classic and the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So Flightline, once again, kicking Major Butte, winning and dominating. I noticed that in the last, didn't the last race he had, I think, a 5-horse field, and this one was a 6. Is that just luck, or is that everybody staying away from Flightline, or because that's, as we talked about on Thursday, you put a small field together with a dominating horse, and that's what you get. That's the kind of result.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two. I mean, there's so many opportunities now, financial opportunities for where horses can go. We talk about college football, and it's almost like when you rather face a mid-major and get the win to try and qualify for the bowl games. You need your 6 wins. So I think a lot of horses don't want to face Flightline, but at the end of the day, other than 1 or 2 3-year-olds and Hot Rod Charlie being in Kentucky, I think you saw the best of California against Flightline on Saturday. It's just the best of California this year just isn't that good. Now, look, Flightline was dominant. It was an unbelievable performance, worthy of all the accolades that everybody is kind of bestowing upon him in this era of social media, and that's fine. But the fact that everybody's going to sit there now and say nobody wants to run against him in the Classic, it's going to be a 3-horse field in the Classic, he's going to be 1-9 in the Classic.
No.
I mean, I just, that's not going to happen. Look, he'll be the favorite in the Classic. He won't run again. He will be the favorite in the Classic for sure, and he will be your most likely winner. However, they're not handing him a check for $4 million just as soon as he shows up. And again, he's a lightly raced horse who obviously has had setbacks over his 4 years. So his health is something that is of utmost concern, to where every day for the next 8 weeks, trainer John Sadler, first thing in the morning, has to walk in the stall and feel those legs and watch him jog and make sure he's okay, because this is the situation. And we always try to integrate other sports into this show and into this equation. We've seen so many brilliant players in other sports that could be the best of all time, but injuries cuts their career short. And this horse, who's run 3 times last year, didn't run as a 2-year-old, 3 times last year, twice this year, there's no denying his brilliance. And if he had more starts, I think he would be widely regarded as the best horse we've seen in the last 20, 30 years. But having just the 5 starts, that's your question first. Flightline's the most likely winner of the Breeders' Cup Classic, but he's got to get there in one piece on the first Saturday in November in Kentucky. And that's going to be the number one thing right now. Once he makes it there and we see how the field shapes up and everything else, absolutely look forward to it. But he needs to stay together in one piece. But there's no denying his brilliance. I mean, I'm not sure that there's a horse in the country that would have beat him in that race on Saturday. it didn't matter who lined up on that very day. He was at his very best. And while he's, I think, won his 5 races by a combined 64 lengths or something like that, something ridiculous. That performance on Saturday was his best one. He took a little pressure early on. As soon as he put him away, jockey Flavian Pratt just kind of opened up on him and just broke everybody else's heart. And the race was over. And congratulations to all the connections involved. And the interesting thing is, I don't know if this will happen or not, but they said that they're going to try and run him next year. So this is a horse that maybe we see next year.
Well, that would be awesome. I know what the whole idea of making money, and I get it. It's the business, but we all hope as fans that we get to see him for another year. All right, so a few things. And I hear what you're saying regarding social media, but we've talked about this year. And I've been doing the show I can't even believe I've been doing the show with John for I think almost 10 years, 8 years. It just blows my mind. But the last several years, horse racing, the competition just hasn't been very good at all. But that's not the case this season. This is great competition all across the board this season. And I don't know what people are talking about. I just don't. There's a ton of really good horses out there that if Flightline does not have his best, and we know he can still win without his best, but if he doesn't have his best, he can be beat because there's good horses out there that'll be competing against him in the Classic. And by the way, also, has he ever been in a situation where the crowd will be as big as it's going to be? Has he ever been in that environment before? Has he ever been in a race where there's going to be, I don't know how many horses there are going to be. Are there going to be 10, 12, 8, 9? I don't know, but they're going to be probably more than maybe more he's ever raced against. So all those factors come into play, don't they?
Well, 100%. And the one thing in any sporting event, I mean, this is whether it's USA winning the Olympics in hockey, whether it's, upsets happen all the time and happen more in horse racing than anywhere else. And so to proclaim somebody the champion and hand them the bag without having run the race, it's not going to happen. That's not a thing. And so very much looking forward to the first Saturday in November. And while he will indeed be odds on for sure, he's going to have to run another race very similar to the race he ran on Saturday, because if he doesn't, he won't win.
There you go. And right now, so we see who is right now automatically going to contend in the Classic is Olympiad, Cyberknife, and Life is Good. And Olympiad just won his second Breeders' Cup Challenge race in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So we'll get into that in a minute. The last really big Classic prep race, Breeders' Cup Challenge race, is the Awesome Again at Santa Anita. But being that's at Santa Anita, who are we going to get in that race?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think you're going to get these horses again, minus Flightline, because Flightline won't run again until the Breeders' Cup. So it's almost like a last chance match. Look, there's some other big Derby preps here, maybe not Breeders' Cup winning you're in, but the Pennsylvania Derby on September 24th is going to be one where you're going to see the last of those 3-year-olds. We're going to see the return of Taiba, perhaps.
Oh, cool.
Some of the other horses that have been along the lines. They're horses that can make some noise in the division. And then the following week, you got the Lucas Classic. That was won by Breeders' Cup Classic winner Nick Sko last year.
Lucas Classic.
Hot Rod Charlie.
What is that? I haven't heard of it before.
It's a fairly new race. Actually, my horse Minor Biscuits won, I think, the second year that they had it. It's a 1 1/8 at Churchill Downs. It's a Grade 2 now, so it doesn't have the prestige as a Jockey Club Gold Cup or Pacific Classic, but it's a means to an end, and it's a race that's certainly presented some nice horses. So going to see Hot Rod Charlie in there. You might see some others in that race as well. And then on the same day in New York, we have the Woodward, which is going to be a 1 1/8 at Aqueduct. since there's no Belmont Park this year, and that's going to be a combination of a few other horses. And you have the top 2 3-year-olds in the country in Epicenter and Cyberknife who ran so hard in the Travers. Do they wait 9 weeks and run back in the Breeders' Cup, or do they have a race in between, possibly taking on Olders or going the route of the Pennsylvania Derby? So three big preps still left in that division.
Okay.
But obviously all eyes start with Flightline. But look, Greg, you talk about the horses who have just automatically qualified already. When you're talking about Cyberknife, you're talking about Olympiad and Life is Good. Those 4 horses, including Flightline, that's a great race alone. Yeah. Then we're going to sprinkle in everybody else. I warn people not to hand the trophy to Flightline just yet.
All right. Now, a couple other things, and we'll move on from Flightline. John Sadler, has he had a better horse?
No. And look, I mean, he beat me in the Breeders' Cup Classic with a horse named Accelerate a few years ago. He had a horse named Catalina Cruiser. He had Stellar Wind, the filly. He's been around nice horses. He's been a top trainer in California for a long time, but as soon as the horse came in, and look, this horse was broke in Ocala by Mayberry Farm, and April Mayberry in summer, and their mom Jeannie, and I mean, April said to me right after the horse left her farm, this was as a baby before he ever ran, she said, write this horse's name down because I've never had a horse as good as this. And they're the people that broke Zenyatta. Okay, they've broke many top horses, and she said flatline. I've never had a horse like this. Write this name down. And we're like, oh great, maybe there's a sneaky one. We can make a bet first time out. And we looked up the pedigree. Oh, it was a Tapit that cost $1 million. I don't think it's going to pay much. But I mean, we knew about it early on. And John Sadler kind of the same way. Once the horse came into his barn and he first got him and he saw how he moved and he saw how he galloped and how he breathed, I think he knew and told his team, led by assistant trainer Juan Leyva, who actually gets on the horse every morning, this is the best horse I've ever had. And let's do everything we can to take care of this horse. I remember last year they came to the Kentucky Derby. They had a horse named Rock Your World in the Derby. And they actually came to the Derby a little bit late because they had to wait to breeze Flightline. That was more important, that Juan got a good breeze into Flightline before worrying about this horse that was running in the Kentucky Derby as one of the top 4 or 5 picks. He's always been the chosen one. He's the LeBron James on the cover of Sports Illustrated in high school kind of horse. And it's nice when those things come true, when LeBron James works out and when Flightline works out. And look, all the credit in the world to John Sadler and for the connections in listening to John Sadler, knowing what they have. And this horse is so brilliant, not running him when he's not right, not running him just to run, to chase something, or, they could have chased, Horse of the Year awards last year. They knew what they had. Instead, on plan, they skipped the Breeders' Cup to run in the Malibu to set up for this year. And, everything that he's done has worked out to perfection so far.
I just want to remind everybody, if you have any questions or comments for Chad or even John on our Thursday show, you can leave it in the comments section below, real easy. And you could also check out the links that I provide in the description area of every show. So check that out. Great content, obviously, just going to those specific locations for the links that I provide in the description area. And the reason I bring that up, as far as the comments, we actually have a few. Just actually knocked it off, so I have to re-find it. But that is one. Actually, I have 2 that I want to get to, and they're going to be from separate people. One guy's got 2, and that's Caesar. Caesar's been very active as far as comments. We love that from Caesar, who's also, by the way, a $10 tier member. He's part of the patreon.com/PrimeSN tier 2 family. So,
by the way, where we made some people money over last week as well.
Yes. Which race was that?
Hong Kong Harry,
Hong Kong
and
Harry, yes, your
and then
pick of the week.
the exact in the Jockey Club with Olympiad and American Revolution.
Yeah, what I want to do is I can't, because like it's funny because the next couple of weeks it'll be a little quiet because as you mentioned the Penn Derby's coming up on the 24th. You're going to return on the 22nd because all next week what do you go to the sales next week?
The next 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So it's a 12-day marathon. They sell about 4,300 horses in Kentucky at Keeneland. And it's where you try and find your next champion.
This is the one everybody goes to every year.
This is the big yearling sale. So it starts on Monday, and it'll go all the way through I think the following Thursday or something like that. It's a marathon. It's definitely a marathon, and as somebody who is considers himself a scout or things of that nature. This is what you live for. These
NFL
these
draft,
sales,
horse draft.
It's funny because the 2-year-old sales are a little bit different because you have a chance to watch them move and all this kind of stuff. This is almost like college. So I call the 2-year-old sales the combine because you're getting all their measurables. You're watching them run the 40 in our term, an eighth of a mile or a quarter of a mile. This is almost like you're a college scout. And you're going to the high schools and the junior high schools, and you're looking at what they are and their raw potential and their lineage and all that stuff. And you say, okay, how does this horse look now? How is he going to look 6 months from now, a year from now? How does he fit into our program? Is this a horse that we want to make part of the family? And, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. We've been blessed that, we've been around some really nice horses that we picked up as yearlings, and looking forward to shopping and trying to find the next crop of horses to try and make the Kentucky Derbies and the Breeders' Cup. So very much looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
They must televise that on somewhere, right?
No. I mean, you can go to Keeneland.com and it'll all be
interesting.
Be on a live stream on their website, but it's crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
A little bit on TVG, but obviously TVG rebranding themselves to FanDuel TV. So we're going to see how that all works out in the next 3-6 months.
Looking forward to that, and also so interesting because you might be returning on the 22nd, which is the day we're recording. So if we have to bump it to the 23rd, we will. Bottom line is that's when you're going to be returning for that Penn Derby broadcast. And in the next 2 weeks, my point was going to be the next 2 weeks, not the big races. Matter of fact, Kentucky Downs this week. I forget what's coming up the week after that. And because they're not the big races, we're getting back to, I think, races where maybe you have a little bit more of a chance to not only correctly predict the winner, but actually make some money. Because it's really hard to make money when all the best horses and the best races, because you don't get a lot of upsets all the time. And so the odds are pretty low. So maybe the next 2 weeks we'll be able to make a little bit extra money with some winning picks from John Hardoon. Okay, now let's get to some of those comments. Jack Woods, although in Dubai, Country Grammar just got done crushing Life is Good at 1.25 miles. So I'm not sure why you, and this is directed to you, Chad, I'm assuming. So I'm not sure why you are trashing Country Grammar and talking up Life is Good like he's Ghost Zapper. And we all just seen Flightline beat Grammar by 20.
Well, look, this is very much where everybody wants to sit there and make this into a Sudoku puzzle or a logic thing where you're in 8th grade math and one is better than the other. So this one, it doesn't work like that. Okay. I was there. I'm not sure that Jack, is that his name Jack? I'm not sure Jack was in Dubai that day. There's circumstances when things happen. Country Grammar did win the Dubai World Cup. That is an accurate statement. And he did just get beat by 20 lengths by Flightline. And we did say that he had no shot against Flightline. All three of those answers are correct. However, Life is Good is 100 times better horse than Country Grammar. He won because Life is Good did not really seem to handle that surface. He wasn't ready for his first 1.25 mile race. The final time over there was 2:04, which was very, very slow. I would imagine in the 1.25 mile Breeders' Cup Classic this year, they'll go 2 minutes or just under 2 minutes, and Life is Good won't be as far back as he was in the 2:04 mile and a quarter Dubai World Cup. It's just different situations, different circumstances, completely different circumstances. I stand behind what I said. I don't back away from it. I understand when people say, "Oh yeah, this, that, the other." It's no different than saying, say Appalachian State beat Michigan that year, and that doesn't make Appalachian State the number one team in the country or the number two team in the country just because they beat Michigan.
Or even better than Michigan.
Correct. So did it happen? Yes. Not denying that it happened, but I don't think it'll happen again.
And I think you also have to throw the Dubai factor in. And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Traveling to Dubai, it's not easy. So
well, and you have a guy in Bob Baffert who's had a ton of success traveling overseas and winning races in Dubai. And Todd Pletcher, I think, is 1 for 25. So obviously, this is a guy who's a Hall of Fame trainer, one of the best of all time. However, his Achilles heel a little bit. He hasn't had that much success in Dubai. He just has one win, and that was in the Godolphin Mile, not even in the World Cup. So definitely something that does have to be considered and taken into consideration.
All right. Anyway, either way, Jack, thank you very much for chiming in. And then Roshan.
Well, here's the question. Here's the question for Jack, by the way. Hopefully he writes back. If Life is Good and Country Grammar both run in the Breeders' Cup Classic, is he guaranteeing that Country Grammar will beat Life is Good on the square? I'm not saying that either of them beat Flightline, but is he saying right now that Country Grammar will beat Life is Good in the Breeders' Cup Classic? Okay. Heads up, head to head. We can figure something out to make it more interesting and see what happens.
All right, there you go, Jack. Roshan, I agree that Flightline hasn't faced anyone yet. Simple.
No, I mean, look.
To the point.
Look, Roshan is correct. I mean, at the end of the day, now he ends up making them look ordinary, and that's fine. And somebody said to a point the other day, I don't know where I saw it, but they said, well, it was a bunch of Grade 1 winners that he beat in the Pacific Classic. Well, they're Grade 1 winners for the most part because they won races because they beat each other. Those 5 horses that he faced have just spent the last 2 or 3 years beating up on each other. None of those horses really go out of town at all. Stiletto Boy would be the only one. I think he was third in the Pegasus one year, and it was a far back third. Other than Country Grammar, who's had the one big race in Dubai. Otherwise, I mean, look, Country Grammar, and not a lot of people know this, Country Grammar was in New York for like 3 or 4 weeks with Todd Pletcher. Todd Pletcher trained Country Grammar and sent him home, okay, because that he had his share of problems or whatever the situation might be. So let's not just act like, Country Grammar, if he were to run in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, he would have beat Olympiad on Saturday, because he wouldn't.
All right. Meanwhile, we'll get to Caesar's questions in just a second. I want to go back to the Breeders' Cup races before we wrap up. The Breeders' Cup Challenge races. For the Distaff, Clairiere won the Ogden Phipps, Blue Stripe, the Clement Elhurst Stakes. So I believe there's just one more big Distaff prep, and that's the Judemont Spinster at Keeneland on October 9th.
Well, the Spinster, again, just like for the boys with the Pennsylvania Derby, we have the 3-year-old filly race, the Cotillion, which will be the same day on the Pennsylvania Derby card, which I'm sure we'll do for the Patreon listeners. And then you have the Beldame in New York, and I think there's another race. Maybe it's called the Adoration now, I think, or the Zenyatta. I forget what race it's called in California. But that race now is setting up to be a matchup between the 3-year-olds, mainly Nest, who just had an unbelievable summer. Look, she parlayed her second in the Kentucky Oaks into a Belmont Stakes runner-up performance against the boys, and then 2 dominant performances, some of the best performances we saw all Saratoga long, winning the Coaching Club America and the Alabama by open lengths. And so it's, where does Nest stack up against the older fillies and mares. Malathat certainly would be maybe the one off her winning the Beldam the other day. I'm not sure what happened to Clairiere, but it's interesting to see where they fit. And in talking to people at the Todd Pletcher barn, he trains both Malathat and Nest, and it's kind of split. Who they prefer in the matchup, whether it's the older Malathat who won the Kentucky Oaks last year, or the younger Nest who was second in the Kentucky Oaks this year.
Okay.
Both, by the way, won by open lengths in Keeneland already when they won the Ashland earlier on in their career. So they both love that track.
All right. And then the mile, Breeders' Cup Mile, we got Count Again winning the Shoemaker Mile, Flightline, the Met Mile, Bayed, the Queen Anne. Do we know if Bayed's coming over yet?
Yeah, he's not going to. Unfortunately, they announced over the weekend he's going to have one last start in his career. It'll either be the Champion Stakes in England, or he'll go to the Arc de Triomphe, which everybody certainly is rooting for him to do. But we won't get a chance to see him in America. Certainly disappointed in that. But that being said, from what I've seen in that division, and I mean, I guess you can also include Castle Creek,
yes,
maybe, whether he goes in the sprint or the mile. You're not sure really what he does yet, but I still think that race, the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile, goes through the Europeans and the Japanese, even without knowing which ones they're gonna send over. I think it's their race to lose right now. I haven't seen the Americans, top Americans that would be able to hold off some of those horses.
Yeah, because so you do think Casa Creed, when you got the turf sprint, and then this 4-star Dave winners for the mile. So you think the mile over the turf sprint?
I just the dynamics of the race course. Keeneland's turf sprint is a 3/4 turf sprint, whereas in other places it's 6.5, which you would more prefer. And I think just the mile allows him to settle a little bit more, but certainly he's run well at both distances. So Bill Mott will be able to cross-enter him and have his options. And it looks like Bill Mott might have 3 or 4 horses for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. So that's a barn that we certainly have to be on the lookout for, because right now you include Olympiad in the Classic, some others in the Filly and Mare Sprint with Obligatory, and some of the others. Bill Mott's barn looks loaded for bear, so he's certainly one that can have a really, really big Breeders' Cup weekend as well.
And then the only other 2 remaining mile preps, it looks like, are the Woodbine Mile coming up on the 17th, and the Coolmore Turf Mile at Keeneland on the 8th of October. And that's it's a race that you had circled earlier in the year as for the mile.
Well, look, the thing is, we're going to see a lot. Keeneland doesn't run that much, right? They're open for 15, 16 days in April, 15, 16 days in October. However, when the Breeders' Cup is held at Keeneland, you see a lot of horses that want to get a run over the track. Okay. So in the fall meet, which I think starts like October 2nd or 3rd, whatever it is, their last round of preps, whether it be for every one of those divisions, they're going to be deeper and more loaded fields because trainers want to get a feel of that track and get a run over the track.
Cool. Excellent. All right. I'll have to definitely jot that down. We're looking for races in October. Sprint, you got CC winning the Princess Rooney, American Theorem, the Bing Crosby, Goodnight Olive. We talked about Goodnight Olive on Thursday's show, winning the Ballerina. That's 5 straight wins for this Philly, I believe, Philly mare.
Yeah.
She won her first graded stakes race in her first graded stakes race. The sheets look really kind of nice, so that's why I was kind of interested, especially looking at the result. I don't know what sheet number she got, but that's why I brought her up, especially not just for winning the Ballerina, but wondering whether or not that's a horse to keep an eye on.
No, she was good in the win on last 2 Sundays now ago in the Ballerina, her first attempt at a Grade 1. But that was a good field, and it's the kind of race where post position is going to make a difference. How they're training going to make a difference. And she's a filly that's interesting because she's had her races kind of spread out before. She's still relatively light on experience, Will Chad Brown run her one more time before the Breeders' Cup, or just go straight to the Breeders' Cup? That'll be worth kind of keeping an eye on. But she's certainly one that's an up and comer and on the rise. But I'll probably end up picking against her in the Breeders' Cup.
And then the remaining races, all the first week of October for the sprint Breeders' Cup Challenge races: the Vosburg at Belmont Park, the Phoenix at Keeneland.
Which, by the way, the Vosburg, I have no idea why Naira did this. They changed the distance from 6 furlongs to 7 furlongs, which makes absolutely no sense. It's been 6 furlongs for the last 20 years, and I don't know why they went back to 7 furlongs. They said they made it a prep for the Cigar Mile, which makes no sense because they have a race called the Kelso, which is a mile the week before. I don't understand why they made the race like that. But there's a horse that's going to run in the Vosburg that is a horse that we have to pay attention to now. He actually won on the undercard on Jockey Club Saturday at Saratoga, a horse named Elite Power, who's now won 3 races in a row. He actually paired 6s on the sheets going into that last race and went very, very fast while under a kind of a wrapped-up ride on Saturday. Very, very impressive horse we have to look out for Belmont. We talked about before how busy Belmont might be at the Breeders' Cup. This horse, a Juddmonte $900,000 yearling purchase by Curlin, a horse we have to pay attention to. Elite Power.
Elite Power. Got it. And again, you're saying Elite Power will race in the Vosburg?
Yeah.
And that's at Aqueduct?
Yeah, there's no Belmont this year. They're doing some construction. So we're going straight to Aqueduct. There's Saratoga ended yesterday. We'll take 10 days off and resume next Thursday. It's called Belmont at the Big A, is what they're titling it. It's still Aqueduct.
Nice. All right, and the Thoroughbred Club of America at Keeneland is on the 8th. We got those 3 races.
Yeah.
Week of October.
And also a little bit of news came out this morning. We had talked earlier, I think last week or the week before, Golden Pal, the horse that's coming up back-to-back wins in the Breeders' Cup, Turf Sprint, won as a juvenile, then facing the Olders last year. There was talk that he was going to run in the Phoenix 3/4 on the dirt at Keeneland on opening day. Wesley Ward today is kind of wavering on that. He didn't maybe love how the horse worked out on the dirt. Now is leaning to running him in the Woodford the following day on the grass. So we'll keep you posted on that, but it seems like maybe the dirt experiment for Golden Pal is going to be put on hold.
And that's the Woodward is what, on October?
I think that's the following day. That Saturday.
Okay. Next up is
that's a Turf Sprint.
Turf Sprint. Okay. As far as the turf, you've got State of Rest winning the Prince of Wales. We going to see State of Rest?
No, he was retired.
Okay.
He was retired over the weekend by Joseph O'Brien. Had a little problem, and he's just worth too much money, having won 3 Group 1s in 3 different continents, which is not something you'll maybe ever hear again. Won a Group 1 in America, won a Group 1 in Australia, and then won a Group 1 in Europe. So had a little bit of an issue, and right away they, rather than try and nurse him back to health and try again next year, they decided to just wrap it up and send him to stud.
Sword Dancer, back-to-back Gufo. And now I hear correctly, Gufo entered in the Kentucky Downs Turf Cup on Saturday.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. He's going to wheel right back. There's a lot of money on the line in the Kentucky Downs, and I guess he came out of the last race really, really well. So interesting strategy for a horse who is goofy. Gufo is a bit goofy, and we'll see how he handles that racetrack over there. It's a very, very odd track.
I haven't seen it before.
It's got weird turns to it. It's an up and down all over the place. It looks almost more like a roller coaster than it looks like an actual racetrack. But everybody loves it. Everybody has a good time. Very state fair, picnicky kind of feel to it. And hopefully he gets over well. But yeah, they're going to leave on Wednesday from Saratoga, train Thursday morning at Belmont for 1 day, and then head to Kentucky Downs. So he's going to run a couple down there, Christoph Clement.
That hilly type of racing, does that really handicap you, no pun intended, as far as pole position?
Well, It's just whether or not your horse gets a hold of the track. You never ever do you go over there and you have any expectations. And it's funny because I mean the money that they give away is ridiculous. It's probably the highest purse per day per race anywhere in America. It's a short. It was I think a 5-day meet. Now they've extended it to 6 or 7. But you have no idea. You go over there and trainers are famous or infamous for giving a lot of instructions to jockeys, and the jockeys may or may not listen to them or may or may not remember them by the time they get to the gate. When you go to Kentucky Downs, your instructions to the jockey are good luck, and that's all.
And by the way, Rosario, does he normally race Gufo? Is Rosario, do you know if he'll...
Yeah, he'll ride him.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll ride him. He'll ride him on Saturday.
And Gold Phoenix, D'Amato's horse, won the Del Mar Handicap, the Irish horse. Only his second career win in 6 races. So is this a real contender for this division?
One to keep out for. Phil's a former coworker of mine, a roommate of mine, a really, really good guy. Certainly, he's had a lot of success in California. He does really, really well in the turf races over there. Certainly rooting for him to try and get his first Breeders' Cup win if possible.
And then on Saturday at Kentucky Downs, the Calumet Turf Cup. So maybe that'll be one of the races we talk about on Thursday with and I should have got confirmation, but John said his son's going to be on, so I'm looking forward to it. The Turf Sprint, you mentioned Costa Creed and the Riddler, but that's a long shot 50-1 horse who won the Norfolk at Ascot, so I don't really think it matters whether Riddler wants to come over here or not. So we haven't heard anything, Riddler?
I would think he will come. I don't have confirmation yet, but I think their plan is to come.
Okay, and then we're going to wrap it up with Caesar's comments. When Chad is back on, can we ask him about how to identify races that written for specific trainers? I started to notice many allowance 3-year-old races have been written for specific horses and trainers.
I think, look, it's an old racetrack rumors and things of that nature. It's something that I think is a thing, but everybody will deny it till they're blue in the face. The best thing to do, unfortunately, it's like the rich get richer, and the celebrities get the swag bag at the Academy Awards, even though they don't need the $10,000 watches and the $20,000 purses and everything else. The thing is, when you read the condition book, a lot of times people handicap, but they look at the PPs. They don't actually read the race on the top of the page. And when they read at the top of the page, it'll say, and sometimes you'll see something like non-winners of a race in 3 months from such and such a day. And then you're going back and you're looking at your handicapping and you go, well, wait a second, this horse won literally the day before, this race is eligible. So sometimes in money allowance races and claiming races, that's something to pay attention to. And, just knowing kind of certain people's relationships, certain trainers have better relationships with certain racing offices than not all over the country. People have their favorites. There's an old famous story about Justify, trying to make the Kentucky Derby and needing the allowance race to go, and what day it needed to be and everything else. They answered a different horse, and nobody thought it was going to be Justify, and then the last second they switched it. It's actually in the book about Justify, but that stuff certainly does happen and does go on for sure.
All right, and then Caesar wanted to congratulate you. He said Chad was spot on again with General Jim from a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So he wants to know, are there any fillies or colts to keep an eye on down the line?
When we come back on the Patreon show on the 22nd, I will give 1 or 2 horses to look out for. Give a little tease for the next show.
So just and we're talking about any horses. Is that it?
2-year-olds. Oh yeah, I think he's specifically talking about 2-year-olds. So yeah, we'll give 1 filly and 1 colt to look out for when we do the show on the 22nd. I gotta go back. It's not something you can just kind of willy-nilly. You gotta go study the drawing board and keep your ear to the water cooler.
I like it. All right, so enjoy. Best of luck on this trip.
Thank you.
Because
Thank you very
this
much.
this is where it starts, and as you said, and this is where the money's made. So, best of luck, and we will talk to you when you get back, whether it's the 22nd or the 23rd. We'll definitely talk to you then, and that'll be the card, the Pennsylvania Derby card, will be on our plate for that show. So, Chad, appreciate it as always. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Greg.